So with that, for bringing people to, in the theme of bringing things and people to Los Angeles for the first time for a screening, we're really delighted to have Wheeler Winston Dixon here. He's been to LA many times, but he hasn't had a screening of his work here before. And he's been making work since the late 60s. So I mean, he was a teen at the factory in New York in the 60s, but since then has started the film program at the University of Nebraska at Lincoln, where he's been for many years. He's written multiple books on a variety of film-related topics. Two that are close to our heart in the experimental film world are this one, The Exploding Eye, a revisionary history of 1960s American experimental film, and he co-edited this one, Experimental Cinema, The Film Reader, which are both highly recommended if you're interested in taking the next step and reading about experimental film as well, in addition to seeing it. And to show tonight with a wide array of his films, a few earlier ones and many more recent digital works. We're really happy to have the Los Angeles premieres of all of them and some U.S. and world premieres as well. But to introduce his evening, please join me in welcoming Wheeler Winston Dixon.
Thank you very much, Adam. Thank you all for coming. My opening remarks will be really brief because I think you should see the films first. I want to thank Adam for making this possible, but I also want to thank my wife, Gwendolyn Audrey Foster, who is a brilliant filmmaker in her own right, and who curated this show and put it together for me, because I've made so many films that I kind of lose sight of what to run, and she more or less plowed in there and just put the whole thing together for me. And so it's really her vision of what my work is. You're going to see some early stuff from the 70s. As Adam said, I started out making films in the 60s, but the balance of the show is really my more recent stuff in digital. I've been working in digital since 2016, and I've made about 400 films since then. So you're going to see like about maybe 15 solar films. And yes, my films have been shown every place but Los Angeles. Museum of Modern Art, Whitney Museum, Oberhausen Film Festival, every place on earth. I worked here in Los Angeles between 76 and 80 for a digital group that you may know of, TV, which was a very popular collective. I was the editor-in-residence for TV, and cut a whole lot of stuff for them. So, and I used to be roommates with Bill Murray a long time ago. This is ages and ages ago. So this is, I've never had a show here. So I've been working here, but never had a show here. So take a look at them, see what you think. We start off with one of my most recent films, and then we go into some early stuff. Serial Metaphysics, which is I think the second film up or something like that, was my most popular film in the 70s, ran for 2 weeks at the Whitney and then back again for the end of the year special. So take a look. The whole show runs about 62 minutes. So, and I'll be happy to answer any questions anybody has if anybody has any questions, okay? Thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it.
Thank you all. So I thought we'd start with a couple, then see what other comments people have. So you mentioned that you've made 400 or so digital pieces in the last 4 or 5 years.
3 years.
So tell me about how that practice works.
That practice works because I'm responding to the current government, which is totally repressive. I live in Nebraska, which although it is, I'm a native New Yorker. I was born and raised in New York. I lived there till '84. They asked me to run the film program. I took the job. I'm glad I did because I have a lot of freedom in my work. But at the same time, it's a deep red state. And when Prison State was running, I wanted to say that's for all our brothers and sisters who are being rounded up by ICE today. You know, and the soundtrack in that is an actual broadcast by the LAPD, which I manipulated and distorted so you couldn't tell the voices were. That's an actual off-the-air broadcast of them picking up people. So, you know, it's sort of a response to that. There are other more. This is as I say, Gwendolyn curated this program, so this is darker than a lot of my other programs could be. There are other programs, whatever. There are so many films out there. But in this particular case, it's sort of, I just felt that it was necessary to respond. And you can see the difference between these films and Serial Metaphysics. Serial Metaphysics was a very optimistic film, made in 1972. I was 22 years old when I made that. And and it's not such a break in my stuff. I mean, I was making films all the way along from the 60s, in the 70s, in the 80s, in the 90s, and stuff like that. But this really shows the breach. You know, it's sort of, I'm also very concerned about the way that the world is going ecologically. I'm very concerned about the way that we're taking for granted the enormous resources that we have, the gift that we have of life, the gift that we have of this beautiful planet. You know, every day I walk for 8 miles in the country. I don't have a cell phone, and I walk in the countryside with my wife Gwendolyn, and we think about things. And so then I come back and make these films, and they're personal. They're up on Vimeo, but I'm more or less. It's interesting to run them here as versus running them in Europe. Mostly I've been having shows in Europe lately. Gwendolyn and I have been having a lot of shows in Stockholm and in Amsterdam, and there they really understand it. And not that you don't, but what I'm trying to say is that there they say, okay, at least there's somebody there, because their perception of us is very different. You know, I mean, they probably think that we're all Trump people, and obviously we're not. But unfortunately, it's, you know, and sort of neon flag, which I end most of my shows with, really shows that the flag is going through a whole lot of changes. You know, it was something that is going through a lot of permutations.
So in terms of beyond that, are you like consistently culling through footage to appropriate, and then what sort of array of manipulations are you doing? Are you filming any? Are you using a camera at all? Are you all appropriating?
It's
right
all
now?
appropriated at this point. Yeah, I shot my last footage in '94, and that was a French movie for TV called Squatters, which was about a bunch of kids who break into a house. And then I wrote a lot of books, and I've written about 30 books, and I just sort of went into that. And then about 2016, I made a film called American Dream, which you've seen. And that's about a half an hour, and that's more or less my indictment of where our consumer culture is going. And as far as the stock footage, I basically cull from 2 sources: video blocks, another source called Pixabay. And these are all images I like to turn back on themselves to make them say things that they don't want to say. And then, of course, there's thousands of hours of manipulation at the computer. I mean, I can't sell that short. I mean, this stuff does not come off the computer stock footage libraries looking anything like it does in my films. I mean, I literally spend thousands of hours working on these films and making, you know, and picking the tracks and doing the things. And so it's a very complicated process. I mean, today I was staying mostly in the hotel and watching television. I don't have television at home. I don't have cable. We just basically, you know, watch stuff that we can find on the web, usually Vimeo or Canopy or places like that. And I was just, again, struck by the way that we're just developed into this total consumerist society. They were selling beer, they were selling cars, they were selling vacations, and that was really it. And it was sort of, you know, reminded me. So I really scour Pixabay, and I really scour video blocks, and they're very cheap. The video blocks is $199 a year to subscribe, and they have more than, you know this, they got millions of clips.
Yes.
Millions
So
of
much.
clips. But the secret is that they're not organized in any way whatsoever. I mean, you really have to search through them. And you know, you find these clips in the middle of nowhere, and they're just completely, you know, whatever. So basically, I just pile up clips, and then as Nick Dorsky, Nathaniel Dorsky, who I'm sure you know, who's a friend of mine, Jerry Heiler, somebody mentioned him earlier, who's also a friend of mine from the 60s, he always said, you look for form that arises out of the material. And that's really what you do. You basically look for footage around a certain theme. I don't really feel, as I say in the notes, there are already enough images in the world. People are creating enough images, you know? So I think it's time to use those images against themselves. I think it's time to basically indict those images, to exploit those images, to distort those images, and to make them say other things.
Now, your choice then of music, of sound, like, tell us a bit more about that.
Well, I guess I sort of choose music and sound that seems to me to fit the images, or that is in concert with the mood that I'm trying to create. Some of them are more specific in terms of their tracks. Some of them are more general. But I really feel that, and there's films here that I wish that I could have run, like Shopping, which is a longer one, Sketchbooks, which is the longer one, where the tracks are more complicated and more multi-layered. But I'm sort of, and sometimes the films are silent. So I feel that doing that is sometimes, I mean, I'll basically look for the material and the footage and stuff, and then I'll see what happens, and then a track goes on or a track doesn't go on. But I try to make them in concert as much as I possibly can.
And for you, what is the allure of, what's the way to put it? I guess repetition.
Well, in some cases,
yeah.
it's the allure of repetition. Well, the big example, of course, is instant replay. And instant replay is about the endless gun stuff in this. I mean, I'm 69 years old. I'm nearly 70, and I worked at the factory. I remember the 60s. It was a totally different time. And so now we have people running around with guns killing people left and right, and it's just become so commonplace that nobody even bothers to remark on it anymore. Every day there's a shooting. And that face, that endless face, the face of ignorance, the face of hate, the face that picks up a gun, the face that shoots, the face that shoots me. That is something that, I feel we deal with every single day. And needless hatred, racial hatred, sexual hatred, homophobia, sexism, all of these things, are things that have just been unleashed, by the current administration. And so these are things that weigh heavy on my mind. I mean, when I lived in Los Angeles in the late 70s, you didn't have as many homeless people, but it's even reaching out, of course, to Nebraska. I mean, you would think that our unemployment rate in the state is 2.9%, so you would think that there would be a job for everybody. But every morning I was teaching a seminar, and I would walk to work early in the morning, and you would see people sacked out on the street in front of the theaters, just wrapped up in plastic or sleeping bags, whatever they could, until the cops came along with their batons and beat them awake. So I think we're in a very perilous and dangerous time. I fear for us, and I guess that's really what is coming through in these films. As I say, this is a darker set than one could. I mean, there are more positive films that I have, but this set pretty much centers around that theme. So I guess that's that.
Before I continue, please, let's start in the back row. With you, please. Is that Robin?
It is. Okay, so I'm very ignorant of the names, the kinds of manipulation. By the way, I'm a total fan of Ethel Waters. I've never heard that track.
Oh, it's beautiful. 100 years from today.
Yeah, it's just
So Kiss Me Darling, We Won't See Them Shine 100 years from today. It's an incredible song. Incredible
She's an
song.
incredible
Yeah,
stylist, too.
totally great.
But so for example, something like Fountain for Andy.
Yeah.
It looks animated. It wasn't originally. So what is the actual? What have you done to it to make it look animated?
Geez. It's basically, Fountain for Andy is 2 shots, repeated over and over again, but with different colors, which is sort of like, and of course I get a lot of this from Andy. I get a lot of this, what?
Well, they used to call it analog, like solarization, but you're doing.
Well, it's much more than solarization. I mean, the thing is that there's positive, negative, there's different colors, there's pseudo-solarization, there's also matting, there's also numerous other effects, echo effects, burn effects, contrast effects. I mean, I twiddle the dials until I'm happy,
And so what, some of the ones at the end of the set, starting with maybe Police State or whatever, or Beautiful People, it had that sort of rotoscope shimmy. What was...
That's just basically twisting those dials and pushing the contrast and the color, to their maximum effect. I mean, and sort of, that's a comment, of course, on the consumer society that, buy this and it'll make you happy. Barbara Kruger, buy this, it'll change your life, whatever. Yeah.
I was thinking of a couple of people in relation to
Whoa.
your work. Specifically Bruce Conner.
Yeah.
And also Joseph Cornell.
Yeah, Joseph Cornell. I would be more in line with Joseph Cornell. Yeah, but Bruce Connor's, my favorite film of Bruce's is probably Report.
Yeah.
You know, Report. I mean, Cosmic Ray is nice, and it's a really explosive piece of work. But Report is I think the finest collage movie ever made. I think, and of course Rose Hobart by Joseph Cornell, which is a brilliant piece of work. So yeah. I mean, certainly I have antecedents in that. Robert Nelson, of course, you know, did stuff like that too with some of his stuff like Oily Peloso, The Pump Man, things like that. But yeah, of course. I mean, I think all collagists are indebted to Cornell, to Connor, to the people who, you know, basically took found film and used it. Also, of course, let's not forget Jean Isidore Sue, Venom in Eternity. You know, one of my very favorite films. If you've never seen Venom in Eternity, check it out. Venom in Eternity, 93 minutes of absolute, you know, just totally taking the most brutal images. You know, I want to make a film that hurts your eyes, you know, and it's just, you know, it's an amazing thing. But you're right, yeah, it puts me in mind of all of those people, and obviously all collage people owe a debt to them. Sure.
Marcus?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I found that the serial metaphysics was such an incredibly dense. I feel like it's incredible. And, I like a poem, but very dense. And I actually was just wondering, some of the music used, is that Rachmaninoff?
No, it's Holst.
Holst.
Holst, the planets.
The
Planets. Yeah, I'll tell you the story of that real quickly. I made that when I was 22 in one night. And what happened was that I had, and the thing that was so crazy was it was New Year's Eve, and I got this deal. Somebody put an ad in one of those 16mm film magazines that proliferated at that time, saying, "I have 72 hours of television commercials, and I will sell them to you for such a price." So I happened to have a print of an old movie called When Comedy Was King by Robert Youngson, you know, whatever, and I didn't really want it. So I said, I'll swap you When Comedy Was King for your 72 hours of commercials. So the 72-hour commercials came. And then I spent about, a month in my basement running them for friends and myself. And they were, you know, amazing because 72 hours, like the whole hour would be one Doublemint commercial over and over again. You know, I mean, and we sit there and it would always fade to black. So there was always suspense, you know, what's coming up next? Oh no, it's another Doublemint commercial, you know? And, you know, I mean, so the thing was with this, so I had a good idea what was there. So on New Year's Eve in '72, I was riding around the campus bus, I was teaching at Rutgers, and I just suddenly said, oh, to hell with this, let's do something. And I went over to the editing room that I had set up, and in one night, I just chopped that 72 hours down to what you see on the screen. And that's basically it, without even a trim bin. And the whole thing was just, you know, with a movie scope. The track was composed by myself and a guy named Phil Cohen, who lives in Oakland now. He's a still photographer. And we did that about a week later, threw an optical track on it. Whole cost of production was maybe $50, and so then you know, just because I didn't know any better, I just shipped it off to the Whitney and said, what do you think? And the next thing you know, they threw it up for 2 weeks, and then they brought it back at the end of the year for 2 weeks more. It's a good film. There's no question about it.
It actually, if there's a premonition at the end of the children in the prison.
Yeah,
it goes
absolutely.
all the way up to now.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, it's more lighthearted than what's happened now. But the thing is that it's sort of like then I could not possibly imagine we would be where we are now. You know, with the social inequality and the financial inequality is outrageous. I mean, it's insane. I mean, I was talking to some people this morning. The average, the minimum price for a studio apartment in New York City is $3,400 a month. The minimum price, that's before utilities. That's $3,400. So that's like $40,000 a year to put a door between you and the street, right? We left New York in '84. We had a loft in the West Village. It was $500 a month, right? I went back to do a lecture at Columbia about 5 years ago, and some friends of mine, Robert Heide and John Gilman, who are playwrights that live in New York, and maybe you know them, David. They're great people. They said, would you like to take a look at your old apartment? I said, sure, went by, and they said, so how much do you think it is now? And I said, oh, I don't know, $2,000, $3,000 a month. They said, no, you got to buy it for $2.1 million. One room. One big room, but a room. So anyway, so the thing is, that's, I guess, the story of serial metaphysics, you know?
So I'd like to, please. Yeah.
And I really enjoyed the serial metaphysics.
Thank
by the
you.
way. And rest of the film. What was the meaning of the title?
Serial Metaphysics?
Yeah.
Well, what you're seeing actually is a recut of the original. The original, which was run at the Whitney, was the image of the globe that came floating in at the beginning, right? What I did was I chopped it into 6 different chapters. I've always been fascinated by serials. And so that basically it would run the thing and then it would chop off at an important moment, and then the globe would come in and there'd be a Academy leader in between, and then the thing would start again. But I was talked into putting the whole thing together as one piece by one of the curators at the Whitney, so I did it. So that's it. But of course, and the thing is, but fortunately, all of my 16 millimeter work is preserved at the Museum of Modern Art. Josh Siegel was kind enough to give me a retrospective in 2003, and all of my work is there now. And so there's that, and then the rest of the digital stuff's at the UCLA Film Archive, which was I was very happy that young Christopher Horak agreed to take that. So that's it.
Well, speaking of titles, I noticed that they all had a uniform title style.
Yeah.
Was that just for this screening, or?
No, that's the way I sign all my work. That's the way I sign all my work and stuff. And also the thing is that I have a lot longer pieces. This was a lot of short pieces. I really have more longer pieces and stuff like that. I prefer to run like only 4 or 5 films, in a batch. But but I make short films too. Yeah.
So,
oh, you had. Sorry.
The LA film, can you say something about that?
Yeah, well, Dennis, my friend Dennis Coleman is here, who lives in LA and is a member of the Directors Guild. And when I showed it to him, I sent it to you, and you said, "I guess that's about it." So that's. I also made a film called LAX, and that one, oddly enough, somebody who ran a limousine service from LAX wanted to put it on endless loop in his limousine, and I said, "No, I'm afraid you can't do that." So.
And I'll never forget it, by the way. How can we see some of the other? You said some Vimeo.
Vimeo. All my films are on Vimeo. Wheeler, Winston Dixon. Just search me on Google. I'm instantly there. They're all free, and and I don't put any behind a paywall, and I don't put any behind a private viewing thing. My work is out there for everybody to see if they want to.
What year did you switch to digital?
2015 I began to make films, but 2016 I really attacked it. 2017, 2018 were probably my most prolific years. Of course, it's 2019. We'll see what comes up in the future. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question about Sisyphus.
Sisyphus.
There were things about Sisyphus that reminded me a lot of Vertigo. The flower, the blooming flowers. It was like his dream sequence of James Stewart in that, and the staircase thing.
Well, the endless. I mean, that's only 4 shots, but they're brutally intercut. I mean, basically, it's the endless. It's the whole thing of Sisyphus. You're pushing the thing up the road. But here, what he's doing is constantly trying to leap, into a new life. But instead, he's constantly brought back to going up those stairs again, posing at the thing, pausing at the doorway, and then leaping into the void. And that's what we do in life. We're constantly running up those stairs to our next assignment, our next appointment, our next responsibility, whatever we have to do next in life. But then we're always back at eventually at the bottom of some stairs, and we have to climb up those stairs again and jump out the window again. I mean, that's life. It's basically constantly going up those stairs and searching for something that we have to do or that we want to do, and making a plunge into the unknown and seeing what happens. So that's really what's going on with Sisyphus. And the flowers, yeah. I mean, I hadn't made the connection between that and Vertigo, but of course, that's a film I adore. And yeah, it's definitely, you could definitely see that it's there. But that one shot of that was really, important to me. The flowers continually blooming, but always continually going back to being just buds. So all of the images go back to the start level, the jump level.
Well, this goes back to my question earlier again, is I think your ongoing fascination with repetition in different forms. I mean, rather than not just instant replay, but I see in at least this selection tonight,
right,
there's a very strong through line in which I think many of the pieces, if not most, are repeating a particular image that's fascinated, that's deconstructed, that's manipulated in different ways. And I wanted to see if you see that as like a primary part of your
I see that as a primary part of the films that we showed tonight.
Okay.
I mean, the thing is, I mean, I've made other films which are much longer, much more essayistic. Shopping is one. and Sketchbook, and one called Elegy, and one called Meshes, and there's a lot of other films that don't do that. But at the same time, repetition obviously holds a strong fascination for me, basically because I worked at the factory. And of course, Andy was constantly making paintings that were endless repetition, and he was an enormous influence on me and still is, because, and he's a brilliant artist, and unfortunately he died much too young at 58, which always kind of blows my mind. But when we were there making those paintings, the thing that always impressed me was that I felt we would always be there forever. It was kind of a mass psychosis. We would never grow older. He would always be making paintings. They were so easy to make. They were knocked out in 15 seconds. Oh, let's make a film. Oh, we can make that film and it's finished in like 3 hours, So the whole thing is that, and of course, so the repetition angle, I think also that you see more when something is repeated. Like in an image of the guy shooting the gun, for example, you scrutinize it, and I slowed it down so you could see his face contort into this mask of hate. So, it's I think repetition has its value, but it's not. I mean, these are just 15, 16 films, and there's 400. So trust me, there's other kinds.
And I have another observation that, expanding from what he talked about, your title treatment. I mean, it's really interesting to me because it's very different from most of what we show. I mean, almost people have their titles as a separate thing against black.
Right.
And then you have the piece, and you have end titles, which are also separate and over black.
Right.
And what it does in this set of pieces, at least for me, is since they're always over the piece itself,
right,
is the pieces don't really, to me, have like a beginning and end. It's like we've dropped into the middle of something. I'm not a fan of the title over the title itself big, but separate from that,
yeah,
it does this interesting thing for me about time and whether pieces have beginnings and ends. Really, they start and they stop, but I don't know if they have beginnings and ends.
No, I think that's a very good observation, and I think actually I would link that up to David Bowie's album Low. Basically, somebody was writing about it. I think it was Christgau wrote about it. Said about some of the songs. It said like, "I'm finished with this. That's enough of that. Over to you." So in other words, I'm thinking about songs like Breaking Glass and some Warzawa and some of the other cuts that basically, it's I feel sort of it's a variation on that theme, and you can carry it on if you want to, or if you don't want to, you don't have to. But that's enough from me, and now over to you. So I basically go for a very engaged viewer. I mean, that's really what I feel is very important. When I go to the movies, I want to engage in the film, and I think that's my favorite director right now, incidentally, is Kelly Reichardt. I think she's just stunning. Her work is amazing. So I mean, I think, and there's lots of great people on Vimeo too. That's Larry Wang is fantastic. Bill DeMoncos is fantastic, and of course Gwendolyn's work is brilliant too. So what can I say? I think she's great.
Please, more
anything?
Thoughts, questions, statements?
I think we've got it. Listen, thank you all. Sorry. Oh, you want? What?
Well, I guess more of a response to it, because I've seen a lot of your work on Vimeo, of course.
Well, thank you.
But when it's shown in this screen,
fantastic projection, fantastic projection. Yeah, let's give a round here, really. Let's give a round.
Thank you,
Adam. Seriously. No, I mean this is the best projection I've seen of my films, except for MoMA, and there was a show in Amsterdam last summer that was fantastic too. But no, it's great to see them on a big screen. I mean, and the thing I'm glad in my film classes I run the films on a big screen so the kids can see them, because you're not going to see, these films were not designed for this, they were designed for that.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
You see a level of depth that would otherwise be there. The rhythm, the breakdown, and the decay of the image as you apply filter after filter. It's seen in its multiple layers here. And then the other thing that I really, gravitated towards is how even the anomalies that you use become musical. In the form of repetition, I feel is more like that of a rhythm that you build between the music within the sound, and then you're kind of playing the band back and forth.
Right.
But even the anomalies, like even instant replay is the most obvious, but there's even the clicks and pops that kind of come up in some parts of it that come in as a very
in look.
Yeah, it's so beautiful.
Well, thank you. Yes.
Yeah, I think on the theme of repetition, I actually found it the way I most engaged with you as a filmmaker, just because I couldn't take every image for granted, because you were very specific on what you would see, and I found myself saying, like, is he going to show this to me again? How is he going to change it? And it was really a really fantastic experience.
Well, thank you very much. One of the things that I think about contemporary movies, contemporary mainstream movies, is they just try to throw so many different images at you and overwhelm you and stuff like that. I'd rather that you would concentrate on them, and also I hope to surprise you, to constantly surprise you by permutating. Thank you very much. That's a great, very generous comment. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you all. God bless. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And a big shout out to my old friend David Ehrenstein up there in the back row. We haven't seen each other for 50 years from the back row. Okay. Long time, man.